The Weekly Mag comes packed with interesting things. Today the topic of the show is performing arts. We're going to interview the actress Roser Batalla and the assistant artistic director of the Temporada Alta festival, Narcís Puig. Trumpeter David Pastor will be on stage performing a song from his latest album. And Màrius, Serra and Patricia Escalona are going to debate whether we Catalans are too stiff in our manners. Now the Weekly Mag begins with Marcela Topor.
Hello and welcome to the Weekly Mag. Today we are delighted to dedicate the program to performing arts. Aren't we all in one way or another acting at some point in our daily lives? Professional actors do it on stage, others do it in different situations, on the street, in shops, at work. But before meeting our guests today, please pay attention to our glossary. It will help you understand some concepts that will appear in the following interview.
We start the glossary with a very important issue, the freedom of expression. The freedom of expression, also known as the freedom of speech, is the unrestrained right to voice ideas or opinions, to express oneself freely. The second concept is an expression, soft spot. If you have a soft spot for someone or something, you feel a sentimental fondness, a special affection or weakness for a person or thing. Speaking specifically of performing arts, we find a noun, playwright. A playwright is a dramatist, a person who writes plays. And let's finish with an adjective, touching. If something, such a play or performance, is touching, it causes strong emotions or feelings.
To talk about performing and stage arts, we've invited two theatre professionals today. Roser Batalla is an actress and she is currently performing in one of the latest hits of Catalan stage, L'omissió de la família Coleman, the omission of the Coleman family. Roser, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And we also have Narcís Puig, who spent much of his professional career at Barcelona's Teatre Lliure and is currently the assistant artistic director of the Temporada Alta festival in Girona. Welcome, Narcís.
Thank you very much.
Well, Temporada Alta festival, I think that this year focuses a lot on the plea of freedom of expression. Narcís, what theatrical productions are there at Temporada Alta in this sense?
In fact, I think most of the productions are there in this sense. I mean, our idea is that the artists have to have their voice, and they have to express themselves on the way they want, and that's a festival is this, and what we don't want is to focus the artists in one or another direction. There is one show especially talking about this that's called Calla, Hamlet, Calla. It's really based on the Shakespeare Hamlet. And yeah, this is really a show that we committed as a festival. We asked Carla Rovira, which is a young director from Girona, to do a show to talk about freedom of expression, because we think the moment that we are living in this country is really complicated, and we haven't talked about freedom of expression for years, and now we are talking about this again. This means there is a problem, and we want to talk about this problem directly on the scene. So this is the show that we organized to talk clearly about this problem. But the freedom of expression is also in the whole program, in the sense of just putting voices on stage and let them express themselves about different subjects.
Mm-hmm. I see. What about the social and educational role of the festival? This side, the social and educational one, I know that you have a soft spot for it, and yeah. There are many things on the program in this sense.
We have about the social side of the festival. That's been working for years already, and we have agreements with different associations, because it's very difficult to have in mind all the social problems we have in society. So we focus in some parts, especially young people, people who's in the borders of the society, and maybe it's difficult for them to get to the theater. So we work with different associations to bring people that couldn't go to the theater. So we help them we give them tickets. We put them in different shows. And the other side, educational, that started last year, clearly. We have a project that's called A Tempo, and it's about arts and education. And the idea is, we think that education and culture, it goes really in different ways in this society. So the culture is not really inside the educational system. And we are trying to push the government and the authorities in this way. We do it in a small way because we are in Girona. We're focused in Girona and Sal, in these two cities where most of the festival happens. And in this case, we don't only take children to the theater, but we try to put shows inside the schools or inside the high schools. We try to invite artists to talk in the classrooms with the students about what's being an actor, what's being a director, what's being a set designer. Possibilities that probably they don't know because, I mean, at least when I studied, we had no information about the possibility of working in arts in the future.
I think that's an excellent idea and a really good project. So good luck with that. But let's go. I want to talk to Roser. You are in this wonderful play featuring for Temporada Alta, L'Omission de la Famiglia Coleman, which is a big stage hit, an international hit, I should say. Tell us about the play and your role in it, Roser.
One of the things he said, because he was answering to your question, is about the freedom of expression.
Yes.
And it made me think about the subject that the Monsieur de la Famiglia Coleman treats. It's not a normal family, we can say.
Quite unusual,
but yeah,
yes.
it's quite unusual. And the omission is for what they don't say. Not because they cannot, because it's forbidden, but it's forbidden by themselves. I mean, every character forbids himself or herself to say something. And then the relationships go in a very strange way. It's a very interesting play. It's been a total success anywhere where it's been done.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And
actually, this is the Catalan version,
yeah.
No? But you are working with an internationally famous director.
Yeah, and now this is
in this case from Argentina.
The English version is being worked in. Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about the experience of working with a foreign director. This is not the only case, no? The only play in Temporada Alta. Actors from here, but directors from other countries.
Yeah, this is a new line of working that we started a couple of years ago. We invited 2 years ago Cristian Lupa, which is a very famous Polish director. And he worked with
one of my favorites.
Yeah, okay. He worked with Catalan actors, and it was a very good experience. So we think this helps the festival. It helps to have big or great foreign directors, and it also helps the way of working here, because now theater is more open, because we see more international shows here. It's easier to see international shows than it was 20 years ago.
Yes.
So there is this interaction, and we are making this interaction possible. We have this year L'Omission de la Famiglia Coleman with Claudio Tolcachir. The show was opened 14 years ago in Argentina, and it's still still performing. Mm-hmm. And
quite
then
amazing.
we invited Guy
Guy
Cassiès, which is a Flemish director, and he's doing the news of Mr. Lin, which is a show that he has directed in Flemish, in English, and in French, and now in Catalan. Mm-hmm. And he has this idea of working European-wide in different languages in different countries. So, yeah, this is a type of experience that it's going to continue in festival.
Yeah, you create a nice community there.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So tell me more about your character, the character you play in this play.
The character is called Mimi, and she's the mother of the family. There's a grandmother, which is my mother. and there are 4 sons, 2 daughters and 2 sons. One of the daughters is not living in the house, but she lived there for just 1 year. They're from different fathers, and Meme is the youngest daughter, in fact.
I see.
She's not mature.
Exactly, in an immature way.
Claudio has made it very easy for us from the first day we met, and so he's taken us through the way without us noticing it. So suddenly we were performing, and we didn't know how. And he's got a very different way of working from which I knew here with Catalan directors.
In which sense?
He's not directing you as an actor. He's just talking about situations, and lets us build the situation, and then I don't know. It's a very strange way to explain it. It's easier to see it.
Yeah. He helps you find
he lets you
the
find
character,
the way
Yes.
of it. He knows perfectly what he wants because he's the director, but he's also the author of it. And well, he lets total freedom for you. And what he's saying every day is, please don't act. Just do it, feel it, be in it. And that's a very...
I see. That's very interesting, no? Natural way of directing. We'll continue talking about this a bit later. Now, I would like you to watch something, and then we'll be back.
Mark Broderick has some mysterious questions ready. What will our guest's answer be? We'll find out in just a few minutes.
Guests today are Roser Batalla, actress and also theatre director, and Narcís Puig, who is the assistant artistic director of the Temporada Alta festival. And a great lover of performing arts, our collaborator Gary Gibson. He will also join us in the conversation. Hello, Gary.
Hi, Marcela.
Great to see you.
Good to see you too.
So, which interesting facts about performing arts have you brought today?
Well, for example, the most important thing I was going to start with is that today it's almost universally accepted that people pay to go to the theatre, to watch actors perform so that the actors can be compensated. But first of all, I'd like to ask you a question, Roser and Narcís. Do you know when people actually started paying to watch plays?
No, in fact, I don't know it.
But
what I know that today everyone pays, but everyone says it's very expensive. When it's quite cheaper than going to a football play, for instance. No?
Me neither. I don't know. I have no idea.
Okay.
So, Gary, tell us.
Well, apparently the obligation to pay for attending a show originally was not so much to do with compensating the actors or actresses. It was all about the lack of space in the theatre. And so we have to go back to ancient Greece. And for example, at a festival in honor of Dionysius, there was keen competition, so much competition for the seats that people started fighting and injuring each other. Obviously thought this wasn't really the best way for things to continue, so they decided to charge for seating. The next problem was obviously that the rich were the only ones who could afford the seats. Yeah. So the next move was to introduce a decree whereby people basically would only have to pay 1 drachma to be able to watch a play. And this was called the price for plays. Which brings me to the next question. It's a very important question because I think like both in London and in Barcelona, people tend to think that going to the theatre is quite expensive. You were experts in this. How do you feel?
I don't think it's expensive. No way. I mean, it's much cheaper than going out and to have dinner somewhere, to have then some drink anywhere else. It's much cheaper going to the theatre, of
It's
course.
quite affordable.
It's always been.
No, Narcís, I suppose
And at
you
least here in
agree.
Barcelona. In London, it's much expensive, and it's quite surprising that many people go, especially to London. Maybe they don't go to the theatre here, but they take a plane and go to London and pay for it.
Yeah, it's quite cheap here compared to
surprising.
other countries around us. And I think there are really different ways to get cheapest tickets for most of the shows. I mean, maybe there is high success in one play that then you have to pay the full price, but normally you have ways and discounts and special prices for youngs. I don't know, at the festival we have, in the big theater where we have different prices, the difference between the highest price and the lowest price is it's big, so people can go to the theater by paying €9. That's a normal price. We have €3 tickets for young people, so I think some tickets can be expensive for some people, but there are ways to get to the theater.
Exactly, there are options.
Yeah,
It's
there
quite
are
affordable.
different options.
And
Yeah.
Indeed. If you like it, you'll do it.
Yeah, of course.
Yes, okay,
Question
Gary.
priorities, yeah.
What more interesting facts have you brought for us today?
Well, this is really interesting. Yeah, you have to bear in mind that already in ancient Greece, women were regarded as inferior to men. So women were not allowed to appear on stage because society regarded this as dangerous, in inverted commas. So men played male characters as well as female characters, as you probably know. In ancient Rome, actors' conditions were kind of very poor. You know, they were sort of third-class citizens, basically. Actors tended to be foreigners, captives, people who were maybe ex-slaves who had gained their freedom because they were good actors. In later years of the Roman Republic, women began to act, but only in things like mimes and pantomimes. But they were still nowhere near as highly regarded as men. Well, that was not the case of all actresses, but in general, women were second-rate. They weren't treated with the same respect. It wasn't until the 17th century that things began to change noticeably, and the key word here is opera. Because obviously, the great thing about opera was that they needed female singers, obviously. Well, you think obviously, but obviously the Christian church, which was very traditional, very conservative, decided that this was a major danger because they didn't think it was correct for women to be on the stage singing. So, as you know, they used castrati often to play those kind of sing those high-pitched voices and so on.
Okay, so do you know that opera was actually the reason or how actually women succeeded in getting on stage?
No, I didn't
No,
know,
me
but
neither.
it's, well, it's logical.
Yeah, it makes sense,
It makes
no?
sense, totally.
Yeah, but well, these high-pitched men were an alternative choice, but obviously it was a little bit forced, that situation. So women finally made their way as opera singers, and their participation in the opera became more and more regular. And although their participation was nothing like it is these days, quite frankly, this was the real start of women being able to take part in stage productions with full rights, equal or more or less equal to those of men.
Mm-hmm. Okay, in your opinion, Roser and Narcís, is there equality nowadays in performing arts?
I think so. I think there's an equality. No? We should say so. But
Let's hope so.
let's hope so. And performing arts in general, should be the ones to bring equality, total equality, to bring the changes of society.
Mm-hmm.
So we're working on this.
Mm-hmm. And of
for-
course,
for several
Temporada
years.
Alta.
But you talk about
What's the
equality
situation? Yes, equality.
between women and men and
Yes.
women.
Equality of treatment, for instance, I think so. There's no equality.
And in terms of the presence of women in
Yeah.
In performing arts, in
I
general.
think regarding the actors and actresses, yes, there is an equality, but there is a difference. There are more actresses than actors,
Yeah.
and there are more male roles than female roles. So actresses have to work harder than actors. But it's I think in the new plays, in the contemporary plays, this is been changing, and there are more
It's
and more
changing
plays talking
a
about
little bit.
stories of women. Also
see.
because we are starting to have some playwrights, female playwrights, because here in playwriting and directing is where we can still see quite a big difference between the number of men or women working on this.
Exactly.
That's on the network now. That's
Yes.
it's a subject that
But
we
not
are talking a
because-
lot about that.
Not because we are not allowed to do it, but we're not used to doing it.
I see.
Still, we don't have the history behind. We're beginning with.
At the Temporada Alta, you've got the Torneig de Dramaturgia,
Yeah.
and this year you've got quite a lot of women playwrights.
Yeah, it's for the last, I think, 3 years at least. It's been half and half. So we have 4 women and four male playwrights competing. But and this arrived. In fact, it's the 8th year of the Tournage, and it came very naturally. I mean, it's not that we decided
good.
we are going to do
Yes.
4 and 4. It's in really few years, things are changing, and the possibility of choosing female playwrights, it's much easier than 8 years ago. They're really, if you look at the new generations, it's really much more balanced than in the generations of people that started writing 20 years ago, or 15 years ago, or 10 years ago.
Rosa, tell us, why shouldn't we miss this play, the omission of the Coleman family?
Because it's
Give us a few reasons why we shouldn't miss it.
Well, I think I could say only one thing. It's a wonderful play with wonderful characters. I mean, and the way things are explained in
Yes.
that play is very different. It's very astonishing. It's
Striking.
amazing. It touches in several places that they are not very touched.
Okay.
And usually.
It's
And
touching but fun.
It's
It's
touching
really
and-
very
yeah.
fun. I mean, it's.
But
Although
I mean, everything with
what you said about this family is not very, doesn't sound like it's a happy family, but still we're talking about a comedy, no? They say it's a hilarious
it's-
text.
well,
Yeah.
it's a very strange family with a change of roles in it, and there are 2 characters which are not members of the family, and who can be the eyes of the audience, the eyes of the audience that is getting in the family and cannot believe what's happening around.
All right,
It's-
well, we
it's-
like surprises.
Yeah.
It's tragic comedy. It's really, it has both sides. It's really hilarious, but under the comedy, there is something really hard that's happening and really
Dark.
sad in
A
some,
dark
in some
comedy.
way.
Okay.
It speaks about the great senses of human being. As I could say, Claudio will be a classic in many years, because that's what we need from classics, no? To be dead.
We,
So in
we need
many,
to go
many
and see it, Gary.
For sure.
Here in Barcelona, at the Teatre Romea, no?
Yes, in the Romea until the 9th, December the 9th. Yeah, December
Excellent.
the 9th.
And Narcís, which plays you think we shouldn't miss from Temporada Alta this year? If you had to pick just a few.
That's.
I know it's hard.
Yeah, that's always a big question. Well, I would recommend the 2 shows we have in English this year. One, it's from a British company that's called 1927. The show is called The Animals and Children Took to the Streets. This company came last year with Golem, which was the first time that they came to Girona. And then we have a German production, but that's going to be performed in English. That's called Uncanny Valley. It's about robots. In fact, there is a robot on stage. We have no actors this way, I'm sorry. But it's a robot talking about the relationship between humans and robots. I mean, that's something that's coming, robots that look more like us. In fact, the robot looks like a person. It's very realistic. And it's a reflection about future and about how the relationship with robots is going to affect the relationship between people also.
Excuse me, just one question. Does the robot speak?
Yes.
And the voice is a male or a female voice?
It's a male voice because it's a male robot. Because the robot is a copy of a German philosopher, which is the author of the text that he's saying.
Okay.
It was needed the robot to be a male one.
Well, we invite you now to move on to the next section, which is called e-speakers, but we'll be back in a minute. The 7th largest country in the world by area and the 2nd most populous. We're going to India, a pluralistic, multilingual and multi-ethnic society. It is also home to a diversity of wildlife in a variety of protected habitats. That's why our host, Kandar Mehta, thinks of India as a continent itself.
Hello, I'm Kandar Mehta. I'm from India. I work here in IESE ESA Business School as a professor, and that's about me. Somebody has said about India that whatever you imagine or whatever you assume to be true for India, exactly opposite is also true. So it's very difficult to describe my country in a few words, but imagine a continent converted into one country. Imagine all the possible religions on this earth and imagine many people of all those religions living in one place. Imagine all types of weathers and all types of cultures, and imagine 5 or 6 different types of scripts being used for different languages. All that is one country, and that is India. So if you want to visit India, go there in a moment where some festival is being celebrated, and you will have an amazing experience. Other than that, don't miss the lagoons of Kerala, don't miss the beautiful white desert of Kutch, don't miss Himalaya, don't miss many things. No question, the historical figure that probably has left a deep impact, not just on psyche of India, but I think for rest of humanity is Mahatma Gandhi. The tremendous impact, the tremendous faith in non-violence, faith in equality that Mahatma Gandhi had was unparalleled. And I think in coming centuries probably we will remember him as the most influential human being of 20th century. I have a little bit of a sweet tooth, so I'm biased towards sweets, and I'm a vegetarian, so I don't know the entire cuisine of India. But for example, if you go to east, don't miss Rasgulla. If you go north of India, don't miss any of the sweets, and also don't miss palak paneer. If you go to my state, where I come from, Gujarat, then don't miss the typical traditional Gujarati thali, which is a combination of lots of different varieties of food. And in Gujarati restaurants, food is always unlimited, so it will give you good value for money. Actually, we laugh at everything. We laugh at each other, we laugh at ourselves, because you can imagine a country with more than 1.2 billion people, where there is always this fight for more resources, there is always an element of struggle in your daily life. If you don't laugh, you don't survive. So we laugh at almost everything. I come from a city called Ahmedabad, and we have been told that Ahmedabad is the city which consumes maximum number of kites in the world on 14th of January, that is the kite flying day, or Makar Sankranti as we call it. So that is one festival that I'm really proud of. You know, the sky is full of beautiful, colorful kites. Everywhere people are shouting. It's like, you know, a competition is going on in the entire city. I think that is one festival that I would definitely recommend for anyone not to miss.
Well, thanks to Kandar Mehta for this wonderful overview of India. And now it's an important moment for performance on the set. Roser and Narcís, are you ready for a challenge? You like surprises?
Yeah, I think so. We must be.
As an actress, I suppose you're always ready for things like this.
Okay.
Oops.
Hi.
We have him here.
I came in behind you.
He surprised us. Yes, Broderick.
I have some interesting questions here.
The mystery
Especially
questions,
prepared.
we call them.
Yeah, there you go. Grab one.
Okay,
It's okay, a little bit lower. There we go. Okay. Sit down over here.
And Gary?
Right. Gary. Well, because I'm sitting beside him, it's going to be a lot easier.
Okay, thank you.
There you go. So these questions are specially prepared, okay? We've prepared different ones every week, all right? All you have to do is open it, read the question. You have very little amount of time to think about it, okay? And give the best answer or the first thing that pops into your mind. Is that fair enough?
Okay.
Sounds good.
So, a little bit tricky, no?
Yeah.
Yeah, can you read it out, please?
What's the first thing you would do if you woke up one day as the opposite sex?
So, what would you do?
I have no idea. I think I would try to discover what it is to be a woman. But
What do you mean by that? Explain.
well, you have to look at your body first and see how it works. No?
Oh, okay. I imagine it functions similar to a man or not?
I mean, mentally, I cannot imagine of being different as I am than what I am. But yeah, I know. I suppose it would be a challenge to go out to the street and to start behaving in a different way and to see the reactions in a different way. It would be interesting for a while, I think, and I have no intention to change gender.
No, I know you have no intention. A, it would be an excuse to try on a bikini, for example.
Okay, yeah.
There you go.
That's, yeah.
Well, a tricky question you've got.
Tricky questions as always. Yes. And what about you? Can you read it out,
Well,
please?
mine is, what is your worst habit? Oh,
We all have bad ones.
yeah, I smoke. So it's quite an easy question.
An easy
I
one.
do smoke. Yeah, I should quit. Everyone should quit.
Would you like to quit?
Yeah, I would like to.
It's quite tricky though. It's difficult, huh?
Yeah, they
Well,
say so.
They say so.
Well, in fact, I quit once. I have a boy who's now about, he's 20 now.
Yeah?
And when I knew I was pregnant, I thought, well, I will have to give up.
Of course.
Okay?
It's
I
the
will have to
moment.
quit. And from this moment on, I didn't remember to smoke. I made everything that with my pack of tobacco here. Sometimes from then on, I mean, very, very seldom, is it?
Yes, that's
said?
correct, yeah.
I said, I will have one now. I lighted it, and immediately with half of it, I had enough. But when I went and I had my boy, it was not a normal, it was a cesarean.
Okay. Yeah.
And then I went to the room. I didn't feel anything from here to my
The rest of your body.
yeah, the rest of my body. And then my sister came in the room, and the first thing I told her, please, do you have a cigarette? And she said, I cannot believe it. You're not smoking. You're not smoking for 9 months.
Especially in a hospital,
yeah,
I suppose.
yeah, that's it. I'm dying for a cigarette right now, but you cannot stand it. Help me.
Well, Roser, like you
So,
said, maybe it's time to
oh,
quit, no?
Yeah, it's time to quit. And
They
it's
say
not
it's the easiest thing not to quit, because
not easy,
I
no.
know somebody who quit like 40 times.
I'm not having another baby. No, not now.
Well, then you'll have to
now.
find another motivation.
Yes.
An alternative motivation.
Exactly.
And you, Gary,
Okay.
what this
Yes.
week, what do you have?
Mine's a very simple question. I don't know why you've made it so simple for me, Mark.
Yeah.
It's lust, gluttony, greed, sloth, wrath, envy, pride. Which of these 7 deadly sins would you be most likely to commit, and why? And obviously, I'm sure you'd agree, it would
All
have,
of them, right?
well, it would have to be lust. To have
Lust,
a series
okay.
of incredibly exciting and, you know, active relationships with a series of beautiful women.
That's a very good answer. I have to agree with you
but
there.
I
That
think
would be
my-
interesting.
I think my sell-by date is gone for that one, but maybe in the next life, you know?
Okay.
If you're reincarnated, you know, you could be Hugh Hefner in your next life.
Well,
I'm not sure
Mark,
about Hugh Hefner.
as
but-
usual, you and your tricky questions.
Well, next week I
thank
might have
you.
one for you. Who knows?
Okay, well, I like a challenge.
There you go.
Well, thank you, Gary. I'll see you.
Marcela.
I'll see you next time. Thank you, Mark. Well, I'll see you in a bit.
See you in a bit.
With Matthew. And thank you, Narcís and Roser Batalla. Thank you all. Good luck with all your projects, and hope to see you soon again.
Thank you
Thanks.
very much.
Thanks very
Hope
much.
to see you again.
But maybe I
soon.
should have said break a leg, no?
Okay. Yes, we accept it.
We are talking about performing arts. Theatre has a rich and varied vocabulary. Today in our tips we will go through some very typical words and expressions related to the stage with Slade Morgan from International House Barcelona. Let's watch him.
Hi there. Today we're going to look at some words related to the performing arts, such as acting or dancing. So let's start with the leading actor or actress, the main actor in the play or film. They are usually the protagonists, the good guys. They are supported by supporting actors or actresses, people who play roles below that of the leading actor. They can either be important assistants or the antagonists, the bad guys. Before the main event, a lot of rehearsal is required, the practice sessions leading up to the main event. It is during these rehearsals that the actors develop their characters, the personalities that they are trying to portray. The actors wear costumes, the clothes in which they perform. So, where does this performance take place? On a stage. The stage is the platform in the theatre, which is usually raised above the ground, and where the actors or entertainers perform. So, when it's time to walk on stage, or take the stage, as actors say, the audience is quiet, the magic of theatre emerges, and the show begins. See you next time.
If you still don't know him, congratulations! He's going to surprise you today. David Pastor will be playing his trumpet live on our show.
American satirist Ambrose Bierce used to say that politeness is the most acceptable hypocrisy. Of course, Bierce was a cultured and highly educated man. However, his analysis contains some truth. After all, good manners are usually a relative matter, and what for some people is correct behavior, for others can be a rude or cloying attitude. And here is our face-off question. Is it better to go too far in politeness or to be carried away by spontaneity at the risk of seeming rude? To settle this question today, we are accompanied in our face-off by Patricia Escalona and Màrius Serra. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, so what's your position on politeness, Màrius and Patricia?
Do you want to start?
Oh, why not?
I'm being polite here.
You're being polite. Because if I am polite with you, maybe you would say I am male chauvinist. if
I might
say,
end up saying that anyway, so go
I'll
ahead.
Start, okay. Well, I think that politeness is a question of, is a very relative question, because it depends on your culture, your cultural environment. It depends on time, on historic time. I mean, being polite today on this century is different than being polite 20 years ago. Maybe I would be with a tie. Maybe we would wear differently on TV. Maybe we would speak with different words, not using colloquial expressions. And now you can be polite and be colloquial.
I see. I've just called you guys before. You mean I couldn't have done that probably, I don't know, a decade or two ago?
No.
That would have sounded a bit strange, no? Too much.
Yeah. To my father, for instance, if someone would talk to you not using the vos, which is in Catalan, the formal treatment, would be unpolite. Now everybody is using the tu, which is our you for colloquial one. It depends on your perception. Sometimes I think manners are being lost. But I don't know if that's really a bad question or it's just a question of evolving.
What you just mentioned before of vos is something very common in France, no? Where you call everyone you don't know vous. Doesn't matter the age, no?
Yeah, it depends on language. As a translator, sometimes I have translated from English into Catalan, and this is a real problem. When you are translating a formal situation between two characters, they don't know each other. They are talking you in English, so you translate vostè or vos. It depends. But then, in a special moment of their relationship, they get intimating. So you have to change, you have to decide as a translator.
Well, that used to happen with films when they were dubbed in Spanish years ago. That used to happen the same way, you know, that the moment where the characters started calling each other by their, in a first name basis, was marked by the kiss usually. No, if I don't recall wrongly, I can't remember anymore. But I don't know, I think manners and politeness can be so artificial that it doesn't, you know, I don't feel attracted to them. I'm a very spontaneous person. I swear a lot all the time, and I don't think. But
not now.
I can actually fucking do it if I want.
You can
to,
fucking do it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I can just introduce my swearing anytime I want, and I don't think I'm any more ruder or less polite because of my swearing or my spontaneity. I mean, what matters here is the fact that I'm treating you both with respect, that I think you both are people who deserve that from me. Like the case with that boy, that young man who was waiting for 2 hours for Macron, for the president of France, and then he very spontaneously called him Manu. And the guy turned around like he was, I don't know, like he was a monster, telling him that he had to call him Mr. President because he was a very important. Fuck off, man, really. Fuck off, you know, the fact that that guy was there waiting for you for 2 hours and was willing to stand there in the rain just to say hello to you because he admires you, that should be enough for you. Calm down with the Mr. President thing.
But in a French environment, it depends on culture. They are more formal, really. But now I think the political correctness is in Manu. Not in Mr. President, but in Manu. So that sometimes I think we have gone too far on extracting this politeness or these good manners in our normal or domestic life. You say manners are artificial. I say, what is not artificial in life?
Many things.
Fucking is natural.
It can.
Saying
it
fucking.
is actually, yeah, literally, it is natural.
Literally,
literally, it is natural. Very nice. I'm saying it.
Okay, I think you both agree on the matter of respect, no, and also on the fact that manners are a cultural issue. right? But don't you think we should always start with a basis? I mean, don't you think there is always a base which we cannot just skip, no?
Yeah, you have to be...
There are some rules which you have to respect, yes or yes, no?
You have to analyze your environment and when you're at.
No matter where you're from, I mean.
Yeah, the environment is very important because you have to know where you are when you start.
Or let them know who you are as well, because the first time you get into a group of people or a professional environment, you might be a bit wary of what's going on there. You want to know who you have in front of you. Like the first time I came here, for example, I didn't know the team, I didn't know you, I didn't know anything. So I was being quite muted, I would say. Now I'm like my full self and I don't care about anything and I will swear and I will shout and I will do anything, you know, because I've seen that the people who are around here will allow me to do that in a way that doesn't...
You realized we're actually normal, no?
Yeah, or not, but I like not normal people, so I'm fine there.
Okay.
But I think it's more intelligent to have first of all, if you have to adapt to the environment, you have to know it. And then maybe you can try that they adapt to you. But first, I prefer being mute and observing, of course, in environments I don't know, or in cultures when I travel around, I try to adapt to the environment, not the environment adapts to me.
But doesn't it happen to you that you run away from environments that just you don't feel comfortable in?
Of course,
I mean, like if I had to behave like that first day when I came here all the time, I wouldn't be here because it would be boring and it would be awful for me. It would be
so
like.
Are you saying the first day here was boring?
No, no, I'm not saying that. Stop with that. Stop manipulating my words. I didn't say that at all.
No, I just.
No, I'm just saying.
Misunderstood.
No, I was saying that I was being not mute because that's actually impossible. Muted, like I was like low in my energy levels,
of course.
Let's say, you know, but then...
But just being careful, no?
Yeah.
But anyway, it's an interesting point what you mentioned, no? Because all this cultural thing, in my experience, the first time I came here in Catalonia, I remember one day I was pretty shocked when I was just in the street, I met somebody I knew, and I said hello, right? And he went like, bye.
Hello, bye.
And just walked away. And I was like so shocked. I just didn't understand. I thought that person didn't want to talk to me or didn't like me or I don't know. I imagined the worst things and I went home. I explained the situation to my family. And I was pretty depressed until they explained me it's quite usual and it's quite common not to say hello to somebody you just met in the street if you don't have time to talk to them. It's a cultural thing, right? But if you don't know it, if you're not aware of it, it can be quite, it can bother you quite a lot, don't you think?
But it depends if, for instance, is it in a big city, was it? Or in a village? In a little village, maybe you would say hello, and the other one, hello, how do you do? And what? Because
it was actually in Girona.
In Girona,
well, it's not Barcelona, but it's not a village either.
People looks busy in the cities, so they just say hello and bye.
So that's not rude. That's not rude. For me, the first time I experienced that, for me it was rude and quite like offensive. But now, of course, I understand, I know that they are not that way, and even I do it nowadays, so I learned to do it myself. So.
I find that Catalan people can be a little bit stiff, maybe? Stiff. I am Catalan, I was born here, I'm raised here, but I often get, for example, that I'm not, where are you from? I get asked that question a lot. Particularly if I'm not in Barcelona. So people will confuse me for Madrileña or for, from someone from Madrid or from Andalusia and stuff, and it's part of this, I don't know, this whole thing going on, I guess. And I've realized that the Catalan people, we tend to be a bit closed off, and sometimes it's hard for people who come from other countries to get into our groups of people and relate to us in a way. Once they're in, I mean, that's a good thing. Once they're in, it's impossible. They'll never let you go. We never let you go. But it's hard sometimes, and it's part of this.
I'm afraid I agree with you.
Yeah.
Which
It's good that you
I'm
agree.
not supposed to do, but I could say, Catalan people are in the middle of nowhere. In the middle of seny and rauxa, which we could translate about something of being senseful or being mad, madness,
Sensitive
right?
and
Yeah.
crazy, no?
Yeah, we change our mood. Of course, we are not known as people very open in the first minute relation. And then when you are in, I agree with that. But I could compare, for instance, with some Anglo-Saxon people from America, from the States. I've been there with some people, and in the first minute, they open their houses and invite you to a party. Let's party all night. Okay, that's great. You think, wow, I'm in, but you are not in. You are not really in. Sometimes it's quite the surface. I mean, it's that okay, but then maybe you will go to another party. But that does not mean at all that you are friends. What we
depends
understand.
on what part
And
of
the
the
social
States.
smile as well. No?
That's quite social and quite not only smiling but shouting. Yeah, man, how are
Very American.
you?
Yeah, but that also depends on what part of the States you're talking about. That doesn't happen to you. I mean, in New York, that doesn't happen to you. They're more like Catalan people there. It's hard. It's really hard. But then I was in New Orleans for a week, and not a single. I was alone. I was by myself. I was there to listen to music, basically. And not one single night I had dinner on my own, because every time I went to a restaurant, they would sit me at the bar to have dinner, and someone would start talking to me. And then people invited me, as you say, to their home. Some of them have stage friends. I still keep contact with them.
Yeah, really?
Some of them not, but it depends a lot on the part of states you're talking about.
Well, everything is relative. Time's up. Very interesting conversation, I must say, nowadays. We could have go on for hours, but we need to stop here. Thank you both for coming. I'm supposed to decide if we have a winner today, but I think there's a draw. I kind of agree with both of you today. So thanks again for coming, and until next time.
Thank you, Marcela.
And we're having a short break now, and we leave you with a quote by one of the most amazing performers in history. In fact, she is considered herself the godmother of performing art. She is the Serbian artist Marina Abramović. We'll be back soon. Jazz is no longer a mass music in our country. However, its followers are very passionate and devoted. Once you fall in love with jazz, you never leave it. And our next guest has become one of the great jazz musicians in our country. Although he comes from Sedaví in Valencia, he has been living in Barcelona for years and playing all over the world. He is the trumpet player David Pastor. Well, David, it's a pleasure and an honor to have you here today.
Oh, thank you so much. It's a very big pleasure.
I know this is your first interview in
English, yeah.
So we are happy to have...
I'm a little bit nervous, but...
Yeah, this exclusive interview with you today. Okay, well, first of all, let's go back to your beginnings as a musician. You started playing at the age of 9 in the Agrupación Musical Santa Cecilia in your town. Sedaví, tell me, what memories do you have from those times?
Wow, I have some good memories with me. It was the first time I shared music with other musicians for an audience, also with my friends, because when we started, we were so younger, and the excitement was such powerful.
Yeah, so really good memories, no?
Yeah, because it was our first times we play for the audience. was very nice.
9 years old, that's very young. Is it when you actually decide you want to become a musician?
Yes, because Valencia has this kind of culture, and every villages has music schools and wind bands and some symphonic orchestras. Is inside of the culture of the villages. Yeah.
Well, you have just presented recently an album with versions of great musical tunes from the history of cinema. So why did you choose soundtracks?
I wanted to record a standard album. I think I have been thinking to make a standard jazz album, but you know, some of these standards comes from the cinema or musicals. So I thought it would be a good idea to take some pieces who doesn't have a version, jazz version, and try to transform in new jazz standards.
A few names, a few titles of this album. Can you give us some?
For
names?
example, you know, Maniac from Flashdance, or Staying Alive from the Saturday Night Fever. Also some classics like Moon River or Mañana di Carnaval.
Sounds good. Yeah. And you recorded this album in Germany, in Bremen, in a studio called the North Studio. So why Bremen, and what was so special about this experience?
But this was an invitation for my discographic label, That Time Records. So they decided to invite me to make a live session in the studio with a small audience. So we, with my colleagues, with Francesca Peya on piano, Tom Warburton on the bass, Anton Jauer on the drums, and me, we prepared these kind of tunes. We recorded in one take, only one take.
Ooh.
We recorded in analog and tape.
Yes.
You know, so it was a very, very great experience.
Glad to hear it.
Yeah, it's one of the most ancient studios in Germany. The building is from 1910, and the studio was built in, I think, 1962 or 1963.
Sounds interesting. Well, we'll check it out.
Yeah.
And in terms of your own style as a musician, you mainly play jazz, but you've also played symphonic music, flamenco, pop and rock. And you like to describe, actually, your style as versatile and eclectic. Are these the correct words to describe your style? Would you describe yourself as a musician in a different way?
Yeah. You know, I never considered me a jazz musician. No, I define me like just a musician. But jazz gives you the freedom of the improvisation. So it's a common language with the other styles I played. I like to put the jazz taste in the, for example, in the flamenco or in pop music or the other music I play. Yeah.
And if I asked you to name just two of your all-time favorites in terms of the names of two artists that you like a lot, which names would you choose?
It's difficult because I love a lot of artists, but I think this instrument, the trumpet, in jazz have two fathers. One is Satchmo, Louis Armstrong. The other is Miles Davis.
Okay.
So I think Satchmo was the creator of this language, one of the creators of the language, and Miles was the catalyzer of this music between the ages.
And the differences between them, which are the differences? I mean, and can you actually explain those differences by playing the trumpet?
The style of Armstrong is very primitive, the language of the street, you know.
Okay, let's hear it.
Is the style of New Orleans from the second line, this kind of smell, no?
I see.
And Miles becomes more sophisticated.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So Miles put the jazz in the intellectuality.
I see.
Yeah, no, is darker, is warmer than Louis.
Okay.
For example.
Mm-hmm. I can see the difference. I mean, it's quite noticeable.
Miles was the inventor of the cool jazz.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's so cool. Mm-hmm. Well, if you don't mind, let's continue with these questions about your musical tastes, because I would like to ask you, in terms of songs, yeah, if we had to choose a song to be a good soundtrack for a rainy day, for example, which song would you choose?
For a rainy day? Maybe this. From Mancini.
Exactly.
Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Perfect choice.
Yeah.
What about a song for a day when you are in a good mood? It's perfect for a happy day. Yeah. It's Staying Alive.
Staying Alive from the Saturday Night Fever, Bee Gees.
Great choice again. Well, David, what are you going to play today for us on the stage in this case?
We will play a song is named I Remember Sifu.
Okay, and why have you chosen this song?
I composed this song for Juan Claudio Cifuentes. He was a real jazz divulgator in this country. Also, he was a very, very, very good friend. We was close friends, and he died 2 years ago, and I think it could be a good idea to make a tribute to him.
Excellent. You're going to play it with Alex Badia, with pianist Alex Badia. Well, we're looking forward to hearing it. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, and thank you all the audience.
Thank you, David.
See you soon.
Well, and David Pastor will be playing on our stage with pianist Alex Badia. And while they are getting ready, I invite you to listen to our second tip. This time it's about a series of idioms, in this case related to the world of theatre and show business. Pay attention to what our teacher Becca Bardaca tells us.
Hi guys, today we're going to be looking at some idioms and expressions related to the performing arts. So let's begin, let's get this show on the road, which is actually our first expression. Now, if you want to wish an actor or an actress good luck before a performance, you could say break a leg. Nowadays, people use it for all sorts of things. So you could say break a leg before a test or before a competition or an important presentation at work. Coming up next, we have drama queen. If you call someone a drama queen, they tend to overreact and over-exaggerate every single thing they do. So you could say, she is such a drama queen. Now, I said that in a stage whisper, which is kind of ironic, seeing as I whispered, but I wanted to be heard by the other person. So a stage whisper. Another expression you could use is you could call something a work of art. Now, this is used both literally and figuratively. So a piece of art could be a work of art, obviously, or a presentation could be a work of art, or architectural designs for a building. Now, someone could also hold the stage. If you hold or command the stage, you are literally drawing all the eyes of the room on you. You command attention. So you could be having a debate with someone and holding the stage. Everyone's looking at you. And if, during this debate, you manage to change the mind of your opponent, you could say they are now singing a different tune, which literally means someone's changed their opinion about something. Last but not least, we have the very famous phrase, the show must go on, which means that despite any difficulties or obstacles that you may have found in your path, you have to keep calm and carry on. Show must go on. That's it for today, guys. Thanks so much. Bye.
coming soon, Matthew Tree is about to compare some superstitions of theatre performers in Great Britain and Catalonia.
Today we want to dedicate our portrait to dance. He's a choreographer, dancer, and has had his own contemporary dance company since 2001. He was born in London, and his style is characterized by strong technical ability and special attention to physical power and gesture. Thomas Noon was awarded with Barcelona City Prize for Dance in 2011 and is a reference in the field of contemporary dance. Here is his portrait.
My name is Thomas Noon. I'm a choreographer. I actually started dancing very late. I studied geology, but I wanted to dance from when I was in my teens. I started doing a bit of dancing. I ended up dancing in clubs and things. So after I finished university, I went to dance school for 3 years, and I was lucky enough to be able to dance after that to get a job in Holland. And things followed through. I met my wife and I ended up in Barcelona. But I didn't start as a child wanting to dance. And I always liked dancing, but I never thought I'd end up having a career in dance. I always loved choreography, but I wasn't actually concentrating on being a choreographer until I came here, because the contracts were more sporadic and less continuous than in Northern Europe. I had more time on my hands. And I found that I went back to choreography and just started doing some pieces. We actually won a few prizes and things, and it kind of got into the company in a very backward, sort of higgledy-piggledy, not planned way. The contemporary dance is quite a diverse thing, but for me, it's still that quite simple body moving in an extreme way. I think the trick should be hidden, but something certainly out of the ordinary. A piece called Closer, which was born in a circular space, in a circus space actually, although it's not circus. That's what we'd like to be touring this next year. I hope we get some exotic things from that. Also there's a family show that we do with puppets and dance, which is also something quite different and fun. I'm also going away to create work for other companies. I'm going to Basel in January to make a piece for a very large company actually. And that's always fun because it's something different. And then maybe in my spare time I'll be doing a little solo, a full evening solo next year called After the Party, and a bit of reflection on all it is of actually choreographing and returning to dancing, and just to close back and have a little think about what's gone on over these last 17 years. Actually, it's a shame that we can't have more continuous activity as a company, because although the core of what we do is contemporary creation, it is a tool that can be used for social initiatives. We've been active in inclusive dance. It's not therapy or anything. It's actually just showing other realities. It's dance, exactly the same. That's just inclusive, because I think it's important that when you bring people to theatre, you can actually show them different realities. Also taking the dance into schools, which is quite tough actually to do well. But it's very interesting because through the dance, you see a change in the hierarchy in the class, the dynamic of the students. It's important that people get exposed to the arts and, again, other realities. That it's not, school is just not, it's a place where you form people and you want people to think, and the arts is a very good vessel for this, to promote sort of curiosity and initiative, or let people think in a lateral way, that we don't all just follow one particular route.
And we are about to enter the last stretch of this show, our Here and There section with Mark Broderick and Matthew Tree. But before we do so, we invite you to watch some more verbs related to performing arts with our Australian teacher, Tim Guinea, from International House, Barcelona. Take careful note.
Hi again. So let's talk about verbs with the performing arts. Now the first one is to awaken something in someone. Now this something could be a feeling or a desire, a passion, an interest. And if you awaken it, it means the person feels it for the first time. So I'll give you an example. The first time I went to Broadway and saw a musical, it awakened a passion inside me for musical theatre. And I knew from that day on, I would focus on becoming a successful musical theatre actor. Now for me, a successful actor, they need to captivate their audience. That means they need to grab the audience's attention and hold on to it, usually with something that's entertaining or exciting or pleasant. Now a great actor, they embody their characters. They don't just say the lines on their page, you actually believe that the person is thinking, feeling, reacting to everything that happens on stage. And everything that happens, we call that the story is unfolding or to unfold. Now, imagine I don't have any words to say. Well, I'd probably be miming. And to mime, we use this word when we describe nowadays singers and performers who don't actually sing. They're miming, but also there was one very famous man, Marcel, very popular as a mime and an iconic actor. Now, let's say we want to make a story about Marcel's life. Well, we need to dramatize it. So we take something that's real and we make a fictional story around it. First thing we need to do is we need to sketch out the details of the story, what's going to happen at the beginning, in the middle, and at the end. And then we start to build the whole process. Now the end goal is to sell out. That means we sell out all the tickets, the theatre is full every single day, and the audience comes and sees us. And at the end of a successful performance, well, the last thing we need to do is take a bow. And that's what I'm going to do right now. So until next time, I'll see you.
Performing arts is our subject today, and I wonder what our collaborators are going to say about the differences in this field between Catalonia and Great Britain or Ireland. So I've got here Matthew Tree and Mark Broderick. Welcome, guys.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
So tell me about the differences you might have found here, Matthew, in terms of performing arts.
Performing arts. Well, one thing I've noticed is that thankfully in Barcelona, they don't keep repeating the same musicals year after year after year. You know, every time I go back to London, which is about once a year, once every 2 years, it's, you know, I've got the names here somewhere. That's right, it's always The Lion King, The Phantom of the Opera, Aladdin, Les Miserables, Mamma Mia, Wicked, Rent. But it's always the same bloody shows all the time.
Yeah.
Whereas here they tend to, occasionally you get that, but it doesn't happen very often.
That's good.
There's more variety, let's say.
I see. What about yourself, Mark? You're a kind of a performer.
I'm a performing artist.
Yes, exactly.
Yep.
So tell us about Ireland.
Ireland has a rich variety of much better, I think, in this. I must say it's much better in this case than in London, because we have a lot of stuff that's based on Irish culture, a lot of plays and theatre, and we have a rich history of performing arts. In fact, in Galway, where I'm from, we have one of the biggest arts festivals in the world, and people come from all over the world every year in July.
What's it
It's
called?
called the Galway Arts Festival. And there's actually a group, a very specific group called Mockness, and they do this huge parade, and it lasts, they do it in 2 days, but they draw a lot on the folklore of Ireland, like the leprechauns, the sprites, the fairies, the monsters that come from the ocean. So it has a very Celtic influence. So I would say it's much richer than the English one, sorry.
That sounds like very similar to what the Els Comedians did in the 80s and early 90s.
Who are the comedians? You'll have to educate me on this one.
Els Comedians
well,
are
it's
a huge Catalan
local
theatre group,
yes, exactly.
huge in terms of numbers.
Right.
And they've done all kinds of stuff, but originally they did things based performances, often in the open air, based on Catalan traditions or folklore or stories. And I remember my girlfriend at the time, when she was living in London, she saw them in Hyde Park in London.
Oh, wow.
And they ran across the grass, and of course they were shouting, "Fuck! Fuck!" And then, you know, everyone was going, you know, "Hello, you know, what's this?"
Fire, no, I suppose that's
Fire,
what you were trying to say, right?
yeah,
Okay.
that's right.
I just wanted to pick up on that one.
Fire in Catalan.
Fire in Catalan. Yeah.
Anyway, Marc, I know you've been to Avinguda Paral·lel, which is one of the most popular places in Barcelona for stage arts, and I know you had a quite nice experience with Danny.
It was awesome. Back in the capital again after a couple of shows outside, so it was nice. It was nice to get back in the city. But yeah, we had an interesting time. You'll see. We accosted a few people on the street as usual, attacked them with questions, and we met an interesting trio who you might see in the video. Okay.
Okay. So let's watch it, and then we'll comment on it later.
Okay.
To be or not to be? That is the question. Or is it? Not today. The question is about performing arts and lies. Are Catalans good liars? Or are there other people in the world who are better liars? Let's go check it out. Have you ever used theatrics to lie to somebody?
Yes.
And can you describe what happened or what you did?
I'm sorry.
She's lying to me now. It's okay. It's okay.
I threw up at work though, because I was in a nightclub the night before, and then I said, "Oh, I hope." Oh my God! I said, "I hope I'm not pregnant." Like.
I lied to them today that we're going to Amsterdam when we're in Barcelona.
Very good. Is that true?
Yeah, that is.
You guys ended up in Barcelona and you thought you were going to Amsterdam.
On my first boyfriend.
What did you tell him?
That I go out for friends and I cheat on him.
Okay.
Sorry.
I hope he's not watching.
I got caught by the police when I hadn't done anything, and then I had smoked weed a couple of days before. And I told them, "Oh yeah, I only took a couple of hits with my friend. I never smoke weed otherwise, but I do."
So have you ever lied to your friend?
No.
Are you lying now?
No.
Tell me about a situation where somebody lied to you. Your mom, your partner, your brother, your sister, your dog.
Yeah, I'm in business.
And are they good liars, the people in business here?
Yeah, they are professional liars.
I had a pet die and I bought a new pet to replace the dead pet. I found out like 10 years later.
10 years? They lied to you and you didn't find out for 10 years?
Yes.
Got my hair painted. You know, painted? Do you call it painted?
It's okay, dyed.
Dyed, exactly. She told me, no, the
roots.
The roots are not blonder than the rest of the hair. It was like, okay, yeah, it was a lie.
Obviously an ex. We got back together for a few months and he said he hadn't been with anyone while we were apart, even though I was fine with it. And I believed him for a few months and then found out.
He was pretty good at lying then at the beginning.
Oh, yeah, he was always good at lying.
Marcela and Matthew, question number 1. Hannibal Lecter, is he based on a real person or not?
I don't have a clue.
I have, well, I'm combining two concepts here. One was a concept of lying as whether people were good at theatrics, whether they were good at tricking people. So I thought it was an interesting question to see. I think so. I think so. I have my moments.
You're a good liar?
My name is not Mark. It's not my real name. No, I'm joking. But yeah, it's that was the first question, to see if the people were good liars or if people had lied to them, no, in different situations and how they tricked them. So that was, I guess, performing arts in real life, no? And then the last question, is Hannibal Lecter based on a real character? Well, today I have another little game. I've got six different...
He is.
Do you know the background?
He's based on a Mexican prison doctor in Monterrey, but who's working as a doctor. He wasn't a prisoner. But later they found out that he had murdered his lover, cut his lover up, and put the pieces, he didn't eat them, he put them into a very small box. And then it was found out that he'd also done a very similar thing to hitchhikers in the 50s and 60s.
Oh, wow.
And he was put in jail. And of course, Robert Harris, and that was the who's the author of the Hannibal Lecter book?
No, Thomas Harrison.
He heard Thomas Harris. And he heard about this. But the most amazing thing about this man is that he was sentenced to death. After 20 years in jail, the death sentence was commuted, and he went back to practicing as a doctor. And the information says in a very austere office until his death in 2009. So he'd been cutting up all these people. He got off, you know, in the end.
He must have discovered something or found out something, no?
Unbelievable.
But he was the basis for Hannibal Lecter, because he had this, as a prison doctor, he was very good at acting, precisely. That's why no one suspected him, because he was a good doctor, very attentive and so forth, but not so attentive with his lover and the hitchhikers.
Well, are you a good liar,
attention to detail,
Matthew?
more like.
Yes.
Are you a good liar?
Christ, I'm trying to think of the times I've really needed to lie.
You don't strike me as a person who needs to lie a lot. You strike me as a person who's quite straight up, I imagine.
No. Actually,
the little I know of you.
I usually tell the truth. Yeah, I usually tell the truth.
That's a good answer.
And you, Marcella?
Ah,
you're a good liar, yeah? You were here asking
what do you
us
mean?
questions?
I never lie.
You never lie?
No.
Have you ever had to lie in your life?
Well, white lies.
Okay, fair enough.
Only white lies.
We won't dig further into that.
Only white lies.
There are a lot of things that we're told growing up.
Okay, so we are actually talking about performing arts.
Yes.
So I would like to know if you used to go to theatre a lot while you were living in Ireland or the UK.
I didn't live in the UK, but I lived in Ireland.
Okay, in Ireland.
I'm joking. No, I didn't actually. I actually was involved heavily in performing arts growing up. I did theatre and drama as a child. Many plays. I've done Grease. I've done Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck. No, Grease. The John Travolta, yeah.
Who were you in Grease?
I played the main character. I had to sing and everything. I was like 12.
Really?
Yeah, and
Jesus.
I did Of Mice and Men, John Steinbeck. I also did a couple of Irish plays. And I remember one very, very clear. It was my first experience on stage. It was very funny. I had to play the President of Ireland, Dick Spring, at the time. Well, the Taoiseach, we call him. And of course, I couldn't grow any facial hair, so I had to draw this big, this mustache on me, like with things. So I had this big black mustache on me, and I was so nervous before I went on stage that the sides of the mustache ran on my face. So when I appeared on the stage, the mustache appeared slightly smaller. So it was. It looked like, do I need to explain any more as to who I looked like?
Oh, no.
Yes.
No.
Really?
I had that Hitler-style mustache because the sides had run off. So I was in front of everybody, giving my lines. And when I looked back on it afterwards, it looked like I had the Hitler mustache. It was quite funny at the time. So
and surprising. I didn't know you had performed so much.
I have
in your
indeed.
Life.
I did. I didn't actually attend many things, but I used to perform quite often. Yeah. Matthew?
Yeah,
what about you?
I did a lot of theatre at school, but because mentally I wasn't very stable then. To act well, you have to be mentally very concentrated and stable.
I wasn't very good at it then.
But I got this idea that because they would give me quite important parts to play and stuff, that maybe I could be an actor. So when I was 18, I did an audition at East 15 Acting School in London, which is the toughest acting school in the UK. Their system, literally, is to psychologically break you down until you have some kind of nervous breakdown and then put you back together again and turn you into a really good actor. And just from the audition, which was very painful for me, it was everything from, they gave you a chair and said, okay, now do something interesting with this chair, or you would have to recite Shakespeare, and then it would be something you'd have to advertise something. And I just, after that, I realized, okay, I'm never going to be an actor. I don't have what it takes, and that was it.
Well, according to them, maybe you do have what it takes now. A couple of years later, who knows?
Well, I'm quite surprised by your acting experiences, both of you, I must say.
You shouldn't be.
But let's watch. Exactly, no? Exactly, I shouldn't be. I mean, I shouldn't be surprised by anything that comes from you guys. Well, anyway, let's watch the next video, and we'll be back in a minute.
Do you remember your first experience on stage? Yes. Tell me about it.
Remember, I was in secondary school and we had to do this this singing concert. I have never shit myself so much in my life. Turns out it wasn't that bad, but probably the biggest time I was ever scared in my life was last week at his wedding. Had to do a best man speech. Swear to God, I literally wrote it the night before, and it's probably the most terrifying moment of my life.
I had to do a play. I was 12 years old, and I had to like hug a girl, and I have to kiss her, but I hugged her, and the whole audience was like, ooh.
I was finding a machine to go back in time, and then I was going back to Napoleon and Egypt and everything, and it was like a whole show, yeah. And I was the principal character, and it was pretty fun though. It was in like primary school.
When I was like in kindergarten for the like Christmas plays or whatever in Ottawa, and I was like so terrified that I just lifted my dress all the way up for the entire song, and I just stood like that in my underwear on stage for the whole song.
When I was like 15, I played Jesus at church, but so that was cool. I was Jesus at the like musical for our I don't know what to call it, like confirmation.
Did they crucify you?
Yeah, for sure.
Straight from the Ministry of Funny Walks, all the way to Basil Fawlty. Is Basil Fawlty based on a real person or not? What do you think, Marcela and Matthew?
Well, I introduced a little bit of Monty Python there with the Ministry of Funny Walks into Basil Fawlty, so, well, over to you guys. Based on a real character or not?
You got me here. I don't know what to say, to be honest.
It's a simple yes or no answer.
Okay, no.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
No, I have seen the whole series 3 times.
Me too.
I've got the script, and I've even read the history of the series. So it's a man called Donald Sinclair who had a little hotel on the south, and the whole Monty Python team was staying in this hotel, and John Cleese, we just became fascinated by this man. John Cleese, quote, said, "He's the rudest man I've ever met in my life," because he used to do things like Terry Gilliam, the American member. He used to insult him for his eating habits, you know? and he did things like he took another member, Eric Idle, who's one of the team. He just took his suitcase and threw it out of the window because he said, "You can't be too safe. It could be a bomb." I mean, he was completely, and he ran his hotel like this. You know?
Oh, wow.
And so obviously everybody left because they couldn't bear living with this hotelier, except for John Cleese and his wife Connie Booth, because they just became fascinated by him and they started taking notes, and that was the beginning of Fawlty Towers.
She played Penny, isn't it?
She played, the waitress.
The waitress, that's right. Connie Booth played the waitress.
But she also they did the scripts together. And it was the first time in British television that a half-hour program took 2 months to write, because normally we're still on performing arts, really, aren't we? Yeah.
Yes.
Like in British television, up to then, people would write a whole script, half-hour script in a week. But John Cleese and Connie Booth took 1 month to work out the plot, and then the second month to do the dialogue. So it was like a kind of breakthrough moment.
And also there's a funny relationship with that TV program with here as well, is because the waiter was in the original one, he was from Barcelona. But if you watch it in Spanish, he's from Mexico. So they completely changed the region of the world he was in and everything. It was quite spectacular, it's funny.
Okay, Mark, you've got more questions for us?
Yes, I do. Let's go to, I have 3 more, okay? Let's see how you get on. Okay, so far, Matthew, unfortunately this week is burying it. He's killing it. He's on 2-0, okay? So let's start with the first one I have. Sally Bowles from Cabaret. What do you think? Based on a real character or not?
I would say yes.
And you, Matthew?
I would say yes as well, because she first appears in a book by Christopher Isherwood, which is largely autobiographical. So I imagine she was based on somebody real.
You're a fountain of information, Matthew. You're absolute brilliant. Yeah, based on Jean Ross, a woman who he met along the way or something like that. Yeah, all right. Next one.
I think, have you been investigating?
No, I actually...
Somebody has let you see my cheat notes here, Matthew. I don't know, do you have like eyes somewhere around here? No. All right, the next one. Blanche Dubois from Streetcar Named Desire.
I don't know what to say. What about you, Matthew?
I would say no. I would say no. I have a feeling Tennessee Williams invented most of his characters.
In fact, no, did not. Well done. Matthew, today is your day. Last season you lost all the time.
Yeah,
this
I
season
know.
you're a winner. It's great.
It's great, indeed.
Yeah. And finally, one of my favorite characters of all time. I know Tony Soprano. Love The Sopranos. Wonderful. Is he based on a real character or not?
Tough one. I would say yes again.
I somehow don't think so. Oh? He could be based on a mixture of different gangster types.
Okay. I think I spoke too soon before. You're back to being a loser again, Matthew. Sorry.
There you go.
Yes. Marcela got this one. He's actually loosely based on Vincent Vinny Ocean Palermo, who is a New Jersey gangster. Yeah. So he was loosely based on this particular character.
I thought so.
Yep.
Wow.
There you go, Tony Soprano.
Okay. What's the next video about?
We're going to really focus on the section here and there in the next video. Okay. We're going to see, are the Catalans as good at lying or performing arts in their daily lives as other cultures? Okay. So let's see. Let's see what people say.
Let's watch it and find out.
You consider the Americans, are they good liars?
They lie pretty well. Yeah? Yeah.
Your president does it really, really well.
Oh, he's amazing. He lies all day.
The Irish, are we good liars?
We don't lie.
Thank you. The Irish don't lie.
We don't lie. Yeah, we tell it as it is. We don't lie.
So the Quebecers are good liars?
Yeah, depends. Yeah, I think so.
More than the Canadians, the actual English-speaking Canadians?
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
So Canadians are not good liars?
No.
You guys are really straight up and forward, yes?
Yeah.
So Australians are good liars?
Yeah, but not very good actors, apparently.
What about the Swedish?
No, I don't think so.
You guys are more straight up, no?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
So you guys tell the truth more than the Catalans?
Probably.
So the Catalans are liars?
Yeah, for sure. Every Catalan's a liar. Every Catalan.
Perfect. That's it. Hey, buddy. Come back, Mr. Pigeon. Dr. Dolittle. Is he a real character or not? Can I speak to this guy? Hey, Marlene.
Dr. Dolittle.
Dr. Dolittle, yeah. I actually had a conversation with that dog. He spoke to me in French, though. I didn't quite follow the full conversation, but
Why don't I believe you, Mark? Because the Irish never lie.
Because we tell it how it is, exactly as that gentleman said on the video. The Irish don't lie; we just say it how it is.
Maybe there is an explanation, Matthew. Maybe he actually thought that he was talking to the dog. Yeah, that could explain it. You know.
The voice is in my head.
Dr. Dolittle, I read nearly all the books when I was a kid. He is a complete and total fantasy character. He cannot be possibly based on a real person who had quite serious conversations with an entire variety of different animals.
What do you think, Marcela?
I don't know. I sometimes talk to my cat, but I don't understand what it replies back.
Mind me asking what you talk to your cat about? Or is that something very personal?
No, it's not personal. I just tell her cute things, nice things. You know how beautiful she is, how nice. You know, nice things. Like I'm sure you say nice things to your dog as well.
I complain to my dog when I go walking my dog. I'm like always complaining and hating on things that happen to me during the day. So the dog is the only person who actually listens to me.
Okay,
so at least I feel like I've let loose all of the day's stress on the poor dog.
I see. Your dog is like your shrink, no?
The dog is the shrink, exactly. Dr. Yappy. Although Jane Goodall might disagree with that, I'm sure she's had many the conversation with gorillas in the mountains and chimpanzees, no? Jane Goodall?
There's a clip of her, which I'm sure people can find on YouTube, where she does a complete imitation of a chimpanzee talking. And it's uncanny. It's exactly
I think she has an ability to communicate with them in some way, like either their own or signs or something like that. I think she's the only one that I've read about that's close.
Okay, anyway, we're talking about performing arts and some things that are quite different in Catalan culture from the British culture in this case are superstitions. Actors tend to be very superstitious and colours. So, Matthew, you've got any information for us about those things?
Well, it was the things that you say to actors to wish them luck. You know, in English, I think everywhere in the English-speaking world, it's break a leg.
Yes.
And there are various theories about how that started, but I think the most believable one is that break a leg is antique English or archaic English for to take a bow. So, in other words, break a leg means if you bow at the end of the show, it means the audience liked it, something like that.
Do you like bend your knee or something like that? Or that break the
That's
leg?
right.
No. Yeah?
You would bend your knee to make that gesture of bowing.
Okay.
That's interesting.
And what they say in Catalonia, apparently it comes from France, which I didn't know, is molta merda, like a heap of shit. And I never understood why that was until someone explained it. It's very logical. It comes from the 19th century when people drove to the theatre in horse-drawn carriages. The more, how would you call that?
The more shit that built up outside the...
Well, I was going to say, yes, the more horse excrement there was lying outside the theatre, obviously the more people that were going to the show.
That's brilliant.
So that's
now
why
they
it's
have the bags,
multi-meta
that
there.
they hook up on the back of the horse so that the shit doesn't hit the ground.
Okay, Mark, why don't we stop
No.
there, right? I didn't know Irish people were so scatological. I thought it was more of a local
It was more of a Catalan thing, yeah, well, I've been here too long.
I see you adapted to this country very well.
I have indeed. I'm like a chameleon.
What about colours?
Colours. Well, yeah, there's a kind of disagreement whether actors are superstitious about wearing yellow or wearing green, but both come from the same story, which is that Molière, the playwright but also performer, he suffered from tuberculosis, and he was wearing either yellow or green, depending on, you know, what people think, and he started spitting blood on stage onto this costume, went home and died.
Like that, just went home and he died.
That's right.
Okay.
And the green room is the name given in English to the place where the actors change and wait. And there are lots of theories about why it's called the green room, but the most convincing for me is that, and they really did this, in the Shakespearean period, that would be end of the 16th century, beginning of the 17th century, actors were asked to wait in a room where there were lots of plants and shrubs, because the moisture that these plants gave off was supposed to soothe and relax their voices.
Wow.
But that's a fact, that they did that. So the green room always remained the green room, even when they'd taken all the plants out.
I know what we need for next week. We need a couple of plants, a few cactuses, a few, lilies and roses in the back room here.
Okay.
Soften our voices for the weekly mag. Yeah, I like it.
And since we are talking about performing arts today,
Yep.
I would like to talk about street performances. I know
Great.
you're a big fan of
Yes.
one group from here, a Catalan group. La Fura dels Baus?
La Fura dels Baus, when I lived in Moya for 7 years, actually, I got to know some of the members there because they actually come from there. And for me, it was something like really strange, really like that I would never have seen in Ireland or England or Canada or the other
Quite
places.
spectacular, no?
One time I went and they destroyed a car in the middle of a town. That was it. That was their performance. They just got a car and a bunch of baseball bats and they just put on music and they just went to town on the car. And people were watching this. And I was like, wow. People are actually buying into this. And I believe that they've traveled all over the world. They've been in the Sydney Opera House, they have a boat, they do really strange and unusual. I've seen some of their videos and stuff like that. So yeah, the street performing here is very different. What are you, Matthew?
Yeah, I was thinking of another Catalan theatre group that since has become commercially, in fact, very, very successful.
Yeah.
You know, they've done lots of shows. La Cubana.
Yes.
You'll have to educate me again, sorry. La Cubana?
La Cubana.
Yes, very popular.
Yeah, very popular,
Okay.
exactly. More entertainment than... But they started off doing street theatre as well. And they would do things like this was a time when, people in front of cars, people would do a bit of juggling, or they would offer to wash your window or stuff like that. So they took that and started doing completely different things, like going up to the car with, a glass of cava and some nibbles, dressed as waiters, and just serving people in the car. So it sort of standing everything on its head. And they did a lot of stuff like that.
That's brilliant.
But that's why later on, when they became more successful, they always included an element of audience participation.
Okay.
So it was very normal in La Cubana spectacles that you would have suddenly someone shouting from behind you, in the seat behind you, because of course that was an actor planted in the audience. And they did a lot of stuff like that. was quite...
I must remember that for my next videos. I'd like to do that. No, go up to the cars with some cava or something like that. Just watch the reactions on the people's faces. No, it must be phenomenal.
I see. Well, thank you, Mark, and thank you, Matthew. I'll see you next time. And this is as far as we go for today. The show has lasted 2 hours, and we hope they have been useful to practice your English. And remember that you can find more material about this show on the profile at The Weekly Mag TV. Today, our farewell features one of the greatest songwriters ever, Leonard Cohen. We'll leave you with one of his thoughts about performing. And we'll be back next Saturday. Meanwhile, remember, keep your English up and running.